So NASA did some research on air purifying indoor plants, and they have accumulated a list of various indoor plants that can remove harmful toxins from your air. So this is my personal list of the top 5 best indoor plants and their caring tips. So first up on my list is Sansevieria, also known as the snake plant. So study from NASA shows that this plant can remove toxins such as benzene, formaldehyde and xylene, etc. And now I will give you some caring tips about this plant. This plant is a very hardy plant and you can keep it in low light, but that doesn't mean no light. The light should be ambient enough that you can read a book in that room all day long without your artificial lights. And let's talk about the watering. This plant doesn't need a lot of water, so you can water it about probably in 2 weeks. And even if you forget to water it, this plant will forgive you and it will still survive, but don't do that. So now let's talk about the potting mix. This plant generally likes well draining soil because it doesn't want to sit in water, otherwise it will rot, it will have root rot. And you should put some perlite or some lava stones or pumice stones, etc. to increase the water drainage. So second on my list is the peace lily, and this is a very good foliage plant and it also produces white flowers. Personally, I have not had this plant in bloom, but I look forward to it. So this plant also removes toxins such as benzene, formaldehyde, xylene, toluene and ammonia. Now let's talk about the lighting requirements of this plant. This plant doesn't need that much amount of light. It is a low light plant, not a no light plant. So you can keep it in a spot that receives low to moderate amount of indirect sunlight. As for the watering, I usually water this plant once in a week. And for the soil mixture, I usually prefer for all my plants a well drained soil, so I add some perlite or stones in the soil mix so that my plants don't sit in water. So next on my list is the Ficus elastica, also known as the rubber tree or the rubber plant. And this plant removes formaldehyde from the air. For the lighting requirements, this plant usually prefers a bright spot, so keep it in a moderate to bright indirect light and it will grow. As you can see, I've had this new leaf. This is a new leaf that I've received in I think 2 months because it went dormant in the winter season. And yeah, if you keep it in bright spot, it will give you new leaves and it will add more height. It is a great plant to add some height in your home. As for watering, I usually water this plant once in a week. And for the potting mix, as I told you, I prefer my plants to be in a well. Next on my list is the AGLAONEMA, also called the Chinese evergreen. This plant can remove toxins such as benzene and formaldehyde from the air. Now let's talk about the lighting requirement for this plant. I have this plant in a bright spot, and as you can see, this is producing a new leaf. And you can keep it in a low light area, but I prefer this plant to be in a bright spot because when I kept my previous plant in a low light area, it just died. I don't know if it was because of overwatering or less humidity or less amount of light, but I have this plant in a bright spot and this is growing, so I think you should keep it in a bright spot and it will grow. Now let's talk about the watering. I water this plant once in a week or once in 10 days because I have this plant potted in directly in ceramic pot, so the pot holds in a lot of moisture, so I'm watering it a little less than what I'm watering my peace lily and my rubber plant. So the fifth plant on my list is the ZZ plant. I have two ZZ plant. One is next to my AGLAONEMA and one I have kept next to my peace lily. So one is in a bright spot and one is in a low light spot. And I think both of them are doing fine. I've not observed much of growth in any of these, but I hope on getting a new stem. Let's see about that. Now let's talk about the watering. As you can see, this plant has a very bulbous base and it stores a lot of water in this base. So you will find yourself not watering this plant that much, and I usually water this plant once in 2 weeks or maybe 10 days. And even if you forget to water it, it will still survive because it has a lot of moisture stored in its stem. But don't do that if you don't want your plant to die, or if you want your plant to be healthy, so don't do that. I would also like to add one plant, which is the spider plant. I didn't want to bring it up here because I had it in a cement pot and it is very heavy, so I didn't want to do the work. But spider plant is also a great air purifying plant, and I will tell you some caring tips about that. So let's talk about the lighting requirement of the spider plant. When I first bought the spider plant, I kept it in a low light spot and it started dying. So I shifted it towards a bright spot and it has been growing and it has produced those babies which the spider plant is famous for. And as far the watering goes, I usually find myself watering spider plant once in a week. Thank you for watching Plant Guru. Subscribe to my channel and please give it a thumbs up so that I can keep producing such videos, and I will share with you my favorite house plants and some caring tips. Thank you.